Congratulations on purchasing your new LineLazer 3400 from Graco. They're a great entry-level line marking unit running with the Honda petrol motor. It's a single gun manual unit, so we've got no automatic features on this, just a gun cable to activate spray on and off. So with the unit standard, you'll get everything included in this bucket here, and it comes with your extra tips, your little bottle of throat seal liquid, and it'll also come with the manual as well and your tip guard. So the first thing we want to do is we'll take everything out, put a bit of water in our bucket just to flush it through, and we're going to install our tips and tip guards. You'll get a tip guard and you'll get a tip. In the tip packet, you'll have a OneSeal. It's the little black grommet that goes in the back of the tip guard. We've got a really good video on all things OneSeals. We'll link it down below so you can check that out there, but it's pretty straightforward. It just goes in the back section here, and then we can just put our tips in real quickly, reverse, so arrow facing the gun, that's gonna flush the unit, shoots a jet out, so that way we can clear any blockages that are in the tip. Flip it around, that's our spray fan, so we're gonna get our spray pattern on the ground. And this is a 317 tip, so it's quite a small tip, and we're probably going to be doing about 80 to 100 mil lines with this. So we've set up our tip and our tip guard, and we've got that installed on the gun. Now we can prime through the unit and get spraying. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our Honda motor. So we want to make sure that the motor's on. We want to make sure that the fuel is on. Now, whenever you're traveling with the unit and you're not using the unit, you want to make sure that you turn the fuel off, so that way you don't flood the carburetor, otherwise it won't start. And then we're going to put our choke off as well, and we're going to pull start it. And that's it. On this side here, we can engage our pump. So the pump's currently not engaged, but if we switch this on, it'll activate the pump and it'll start running. So I'll just turn it off for now to run you through the settings. So we've got our prime spray valve here connected to our manifold. Down is for prime, up is for spray. So when we start off, we want to make sure that we prime the unit. So that way, in this case, it's water, but when you're using paint, it'll be your paint. You want to make sure that it's all primed through the line and there's no air in there. So we'll flick it into spray. We'll start up the motor. We'll engage our pump and we'll build a little bit of pressure, just a little bit, just to get it flowing, and it'll come through this suction tube into the pump, round the back, into the manifold, and then out through the drain tube. And so we're just gonna run that for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then we can flick it into spray, and we can start to build some more pressure. You've got a pressure gauge here, which will indicate what PSI you're at, and depending on the paint you're using, the size of the tips, etc., will be whatever PSI you need to make it work. What we always recommend is a bit of test cardboard or a test area, run a few test lines and just make sure you're getting a nice even fan width, that you've got the width of line you're hoping to achieve. So I'll run through all that now with it on. So again, motor goes on, fuel's on, choke off, then choke on. We're in the prime position. We engage our pump and we build our pressure, and that'll flow through here. Then we can flick it into spray and slowly build pressure. Now I'm sitting at about 1500 PSI. Take off my brake. Now I can mark some lines. My left trigger controls the front wheel, so it's locked straight at the moment, so that way I can walk straight. But then if I want to do curves, I can hold this trigger and it'll let me do curves. Now if I let go of it, it'll pull straight and it'll lock again. On your right hand side is your gun cable trigger, and that's going to activate your gun. Like that. Whenever we're not using the unit, we want to make sure we put the brake on, because if it's on a hill or something, someone could get hurt. It's a small orange lever on this side. We just want to pull it like that, and now it's not going to run away. Whenever the unit's not in use, I want to make sure that I evacuate the pressure, and the best way to do that is always through the gun. In emergencies, it can be done through the prime valve. However, doing it like this will wear your seals out early. on a test bit of cardboard or take the gun off and do it in a waste pail. Just evacuate the pressure, then I can put it back down into prime when there's no pressure. Adjusting our gun arms, we've got some great adjustments. We've got this little adjustment here, which controls the height of the gun. We've got this adjustment here, which allows us to pull the gun in and out. They've all got really clever increments on them. And we've also got this adjustment here to move up and down the pole. Again, lots of clever increments so we know where we're at. And then we can adjust this one here in and out for when we're not using the unit. You can also take off the gun arm, slide the bar through, and then operate the gun on the left hand or the right hand side, depending on preference. When operating the gun, you've got this gun holder here. You can take this off and you can mark stencils with it. Now, whenever you take the gun off, you always want to make sure that you've got your trigger lock on, so that way there's not going to be any skin injection issues. The units are very high pressure. If you go away from the unit and someone picks it up for whatever reason, it's very easy to pull the trigger and have a skin injection issue. Yeah, it's very serious. You've got to go straight to the hospital. So always engage your trigger lock and be safe when you're marking. But with that said, you've got 15 meters of hose standard on the unit. So you can pull this off and you can mark all your stencils like that. This is a great unit for entry-level line markers, or if you're doing a lot of car park work. It's very small, lightweight, maneuverable. If you're doing rural work, touch-up work, or if you're just looking to add some units into your fleet, so that way the guys can, run around and do a lot of work really efficiently, because it's, quite a small, lightweight, easy to maneuver form factor. So I'm gonna release my brake and I'm gonna turn everything on again, and then I'm gonna mark some lines and show you what that looks like. And if I want to do any curved lines, then I can engage the front wheel trigger. And let's say I've got a nice big curved line that I've spotted. I can engage the trigger, hold that in, follow that along. And then I can release it, it'll lock straight. In terms of maintenance and troubleshooting, because you are running a Honda petrol motor, you also want to run through any of those checks. So if the unit's not starting for whatever reason, you want to run through, have I got fuel in the unit? Do I have air? Do I have spark? Does the pull start work? And most importantly, is it on? Because you'd be surprised, I always do that. The next part of it is you've got it running, you're marking some lines, it was working great, but you've gone away for smoker, you've come back to the unit, you've gone to get marking again, and it's just not holding pressure, it's slowly dropping pressure, and then it won't prime again. 9 times out of 10, what this issue is it's all about, there's a little bit of paint skin that's formed on the ball in the lower housing, and what that'll do is it'll prevent it from basically moving freely, and it'll prevent the unit from sucking any paint. So what you need to do in that case is flick it into prime while running a couple of light taps on the lower housing with a mallet. That'll free up that paint skin, it'll prime through fine, then you can flick it back into spray, build pressure and go again. You've also got included in the unit your little throat seal liquid. This is to be used before every single usage, and in the top section of the pump, it's just a couple of small drops. This is super essential. What it does, it prevents the paint that's coming up on the piston rod from drying and hardening, and then coming back through the packings and causing any unnecessary wear or premature damage. So it just keeps that paint well lubricated and it stops it from drying out. So you make sure you use this a couple of drops before every use, and it'll just stop that paint from hardening, get you more life out of your pump. So now we're gonna pack down the unit. So what we wanna do is we wanna relieve pressure. We're gonna flick it into prime. We're gonna get about 2 drums, 2 buckets of water is usually what I say. If you're using water-based paint is the best way to go. and we're gonna swap one out. So with water, we're gonna prime that through the line, and we're just gonna run it on prime. We're gonna take our gun off, and we're gonna put that into our paint bucket with the tip guard off, hold in our trigger, turn the unit into spray, and slowly build pressure, very slowly. And you don't wanna relieve that trigger on your gun, because then it's gonna build pressure. You wanna make sure that you've got that held in, and it's gonna cycle through the paint that's still left in your hose back into your paint drum. Once it starts to get to the water, it'll spit and splutter, and that's how you know. You can then turn off the pressure dial, drop it back into prime, release your trigger, and then you can basically start again. So keep priming until it's milky. Again, instead of in a paint drum, you wanna do it in a waste pail, hold your trigger, flick it into spray, slowly build pressure, and you just wanna keep priming the water through until it's milky clear. And then we're gonna basically turn that off again, flick it back into prime. Then we're gonna get our fresh drum of water, and we're gonna do it all again until the water's essentially clear. We wanna go as clear as possible. We're also gonna pop out our filters here. We've got one filter in the unit, and it's this manifold filter, and we're gonna take this out, and we're also gonna flush that just a little bit with the water, just to make sure it's clear from any paint or debris. These will always have paint in them. They'll always have debris in them, no matter how well you flush it, unless you pull them out and clean them, because they just capture everything. I'll also do the same thing with my tips and guards. So I'll take my tips and guards off after I've sprayed them through with a bit of water, and I'll just give them a rinse in my water bucket. Then the very last step, once we've washed through about 2 drums of water and it's clear, we want to prime in our Pump Armour. This is super essential. Again, I've heard people say that, you know, they can just use water, or they don't have to use anything, or they can use coolant. And in my experience, if you don't use anything, your packings are going to dry out. They're going to crack the next time you use it. If you use water, it's going to get rusty, and it's going to destroy everything, and it's going to cause you a world of pain and a lot of cost in replacement parts. And if you use coolant, the issue you're going to have there is it's inconsistent. You don't know what you're really putting into the unit, and sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. I've never had an issue using Pump Armour, and every single customer who I have that has used this consistently has got really long life out of their equipment and had no issues. So all you have to do is treat it like a car wash. When you've got about a half bucket of paint, or half bucket of water, sorry, just a couple of drops in the top there, prime it through the line. You don't have to prime it through the spray gun. You can prime it just through the line, and then you're all done. Once it's primed through, that's it. You can turn off the unit, flick it off, turn off the fuel, pack it away.